Yeah, I'll stay with Max. If he regains consciousness, perhaps he can ID his attacker.
Ooh, that Jonathan. It's the beginning of the end for him. Or at least I hope. Plus a possible breakup and more on this week's episode of Shadowhunters. Let's break it down on what happened. Hello you lovely people, Lisa here, and it's finally time for Jonathan to get what's coming to him. I mean, like, this guy kisses his own sister, then hurts a little kid. Like, what's wrong with him? Well, the answer's actually a lot, of course. I mean, demon blood. But I gotta hand it to that Will Tudor. He is just so damn good at being evil. But before I get to all Jonathan's evil ways in this episode, let's break down the rest of it. I'm gonna kick things off with Maya and Simon. The two finally get their little paddle boat date, and we get to learn a little bit more about Maya in this episode, which I think is great, especially since Alicia Wainwright, who plays Maya, will be a series regular in season 3. Now, Maya is a little standoffish when it comes to letting Simon get too close and really opening herself up for a relationship. When the two are about to kiss after their date, they're interrupted by a scream in the alley where they see a werewolf has attacked a mundane named Bartholomew, or Bat as he likes to be called. It looks like bad news because this means Russell is back in town and turning mundanes to build up his pack, which is a no-no. As Maya and Simon brace Bat for the full moon and waited out to see if he turns or not, Simon asks Maya about the scars on her neck and if they're from the wolf that turned her. Maya reveals that she knew the person who turned her. It was her boyfriend Jordan. After a while, she noticed he started getting possessive and weird, so she broke up with him and started dating someone else casually. On her way home one night, she stopped to just enjoy the rain, and the next thing she knew, she was face down in the mud being attacked, and she was screaming, and then she saw the wolf change back into Jordan, and he ran off, leaving her alone. So that explains why Maya has a hard time with relationships. In fact, she thinks,
I can't help but think that every time I turn, this is what love got me.
Well, I have to say, Maya has a pretty good reason to be guarded. That had to be pretty terrifying, and for someone that you love to do that to you, it's crazy. Thankfully, this makes Maya and Simon grow closer, and as they go to get Bat some food, Maya tells Simon she's not good at this whole trust thing, and Simon's like, well, it's a good thing I'm not good at the whole giving up thing, and that's when they share a sweet kiss. Now, what about Bat? Well, he's actually survived his first full moon. He's gonna be part of Luke's pack, and I think he's in pretty good hands. Now, from a relationship that is making progress towards the happy end of the spectrum, let's jump to one that might be over. For now. I know, I don't want to say it's so, but Malec might be over. Magnus and Luke go to meet the Seelie Queen to discuss what to do next about Valentine. They've come to accept an offer to unite the downworld and hunt Valentine, but the Seelie Queen says it has to be on her terms. Now, Luke is not for this as he doesn't want to risk their relationship with the Shadowhunters and break the accords. He tries to get Magnus to be on his side while the Seelie Queen is trying to convince Magnus to be on hers. Magnus ends up telling the Seelie Queen that breaking their allegiance to the Shadowhunters will require some consideration. So the Seelie Queen gives Magnus a rose and says as soon as the petals turn black, your time is up and a decision needs to be made. Oh, and she also says this.
Those who don't come to my side will be on the losing side.
For what appears to be a little girl, she is pretty intimidating and has got this whole Beauty and the Beast rose thing on lock. Magnus now spends the episode struggling to figure out where his allegiance lies and what he's going to do next. He's still very mad at Alec for lying to him about the whole soul sword, and he's been avoiding Alec's calls. In this episode, we get some flashbacks to Magnus remembering various times with Alec, one of those being when Alec fell asleep at his place in separate beds not long after they met, and this is before they were an item. Magnus told Alec that it was rare to find a Shadowhunter with such an open heart, while Alec told Magnus that he trusts him, but he doesn't quite know why. In Magnus's other memories, we go back to what I'm assuming was Alec and Magnus's first time, and at first, as they were making out, Magnus stops himself with Alec because his warlock mark or his eyes change, and he's afraid that he's losing control, and he's just scared that this might be bad for Alec. Well, then Alec just says what I wish any guy would say to me right now.
Magnus. They're beautiful. You're beautiful.
Ugh. Seriously though, like, these two our goals. But I know this is just the show twisting that knife before they rip my heart out. In the last flashback, which is the morning after the previously mentioned night, Alec asks Magnus what he's afraid of, and Magnus jokes around a bit, saying he doesn't quite know. The key to having no fears is having nothing to lose. And that's why he hasn't quite opened his heart for almost 100 years. After everything with Max is wrapped up, which I'll talk about in a second, Magnus goes to leave and Izzy kind of gives Alec this nod, like, you need to go talk to him, because it's been obvious to everybody that there's been tension. Magnus is hiding the flower that the Seelie Queen gave him, which is turning blacker and blacker. Alec then apologizes to Magnus for everything, saying that he made a mistake, but even with that, he knows that they always manage to find their way back to each other. At this point, it's me screaming at the TV, like, come on Magnus, just say that you're sorry too. Say you're not gonna take the Seelie Queen's deal and just kiss and make up. Like, just look at Alec. Like, seriously, look at him. Sadly, though, it doesn't play out the way I wanted it to, and the way we probably all wanted it to. The two say I love you, but Magnus says that as a leader, he has to make some difficult decisions to ensure the survival of his people, and Alec is one of the only things holding him back from doing that, and he says he can't have both. Even though Alec tells Magnus that he can, Magnus tells Alec this is what he was actually afraid of this whole time, and he walks off. So is this like an official Malec breakup? They didn't really quite say it's over, right? Like, is Magnus siding with the Seelie Queen? All I know is I feel heartbroken, and I'm not even part of this relationship. Like, it's fictional. But Alec did say that they always seem to find their way back to each other, and I have no doubt that that's actually going to happen. Maybe not in the last 2 episodes of the season, but season 3, Malec's going to be back together again, right? Before moving on to Max and Jonathan and all that drama, let's talk about Luke real quick. So after finding out that Russell has been turning mundanes, Luke pays Russell a visit, and of course Russell wants to fight to the death for Alpha. Luke ends up kicking Russell's ass, and although he doesn't kill Russell, the rest of Russell's pack bows down to Luke, establishing him as their alpha again, and they head back to the New York pack. While Luke is welcoming the new and returning pack members, we see that a little hidden camera has been set up in the Jade Wolf, and who is watching? Freaking Ollie, Luke's partner, and her girlfriend Sam. Ollie tells Sam, now do you believe me? Okay, but what exactly is Ollie up to, and who is she? Like, it's been this kind of subplot that's barely been touched on, and like we kind of forget about it, and then it pops up for an episode and then goes like 6 episodes without hearing anything. Now we know that Ollie's really nosy. She's taking pics of Maya and Luke and has pics of wolves on her, you know, iPad or whatever. But did she come to town knowing that these creatures existed and she set out to find them? Or does she have other motives? Is it something that she happened upon? Like, what is she doing? She seems to have had a plan on stalking Luke and Maya and following him everywhere, right? All I know is it better be made clear before the end of the season. Otherwise, what was the point? Now Max. Poor little Max. Now I'm not gonna lie. This kid got on my nerves for most of the episodes that he is in, but no one deserves what Jonathan did to him. Especially because he's a little kid. We pick up right where the last episode left off, and Max and Jonathan are kind of going at it, and little Max throws what I think was a letter opener, knife type thing, into Jonathan's torso. Give a point to Max. That kid is brave, you gotta give him that. Ultimately though, Jonathan smashes Max's head against the desk among other things and knocks the poor kid out, and actually kind of sends him into a really bad state. When Clary comes to find Alec in his office, Jonathan quickly shoves Max under the desk and pretends like nothing is wrong. Now Izzy's concerned she can't find Max anywhere, however everybody else seems to be more concerned with the mortal mirror and keeping it safe. And that includes Sebastian, or Jonathan, who is still sitting in on all these little meetings, using his charm to ask questions, divert attention, but also learn important information. Jonathan finds out the mortal mirror is being guarded by the elite guards, and they're actually the only ones who knows its location. When Jonathan goes back to get Max, Max is gone, and Izzy ends up seeing a trail of blood leading to her room, where she finds Max. Now, like I said, Max is in really bad shape, and it seems like nothing is curing him, not even warlock magic. The only thing that might work is a very risky procedure that has to be performed by Brother Enoch, and there's a very high chance that Max will not even survive, but it's really the only shot they have. Now, Sebastian, or Jonathan, offers to stay with Max in case he wakes up and identifies the real Jonathan, but we all know what his motive is. Yeah, evil bastard, right? Still going after a little kid. Clary and Jace go to retrace Max's steps and find the box that held Jonathan's keepsakes under Izzy's bed, figuring that Max must have been tracking Jonathan and found out who he really was. Jace finally realizes that Jonathan must be in the building, glamored as one of their own hiding in plain sight, so now the Institute is on lockdown. Jonathan tries to volunteer to be security outside, but Alec shoots him down, saying they have it covered, and that if Jonathan, the actual Jonathan's still in the building, he's not going to get out alive. Now Jonathan is close again to getting Max all to himself when he convinces Izzy to go take a break, but thankfully Robert and Maris show up just in time to stop that from happening. As they all decide whether or not to do the procedure with Brother Enoch, and they're discussing, if Max doesn't do it, he's not gonna wake up, Jonathan walks out with this really evil smirk on his face because he's an asshole. Can't he just pick on someone his own size? Jonathan ends up taking out one of the elite guards and finding out where the mortal mirror is. It's being held in the sub-cells. When he goes to try to go down the elevator to get there, Jace cuts him off, saying he's going to guard the mortal mirror himself. So now Jonathan has to find a way to get Jace to leave his post. So what does he do? He fakes a text message from Alec to Jace saying Max is gone. So of course, Jace runs up to see Alec and Max. And that's when Jonathan goes down to the sub-cells and kills all the guards and steals the mortal mirror. Now as he's trying to leave, he sees that the Institute is still on lockdown and he runs into Clary. Clary explains that everyone who is trying to leave the Institute is being checked.
Has the lockdown been called off?
If you can prove you're not Jonathan.
Sorry, what?
Clary explains they found a way to figure out who exactly Jonathan is and blow his cover. Jace has remembered from reading Valentine's journals that Jonathan can't tolerate Electrum because of his demon blood. So Clary got some of it from Izzy's whip, and they're making everyone who wants to leave hold it. Jonathan tries to distract Clary with his usual questions and whatever, and then he asks Clary what she'd do if she caught Jonathan. Clary says that she used to believe Jonathan could be saved, but after what he did to Elliot, Dot, and Max, she'd kill him with her bare hands. And I'd pay to see that. Jonathan then grabs the Electrum, and after holding it for a bit with no signs of pain, he goes to leave. Thankfully, Clary is finally realizing that something is off with this guy. Seriously, Clary, it wasn't that kiss in the last episode. She goes to stop Jonathan before he gets out the door and says she forgot something, and then she opens his hand and sees the damage that has been done by the Electrum, and the two start to fight. Clary manages to cut the mortal mirror free from Jonathan's pocket and also stabs him while making a rune to bust out of the door that's kind of locked them in. Jonathan ends up escaping though, and we're guessing he's running back to Daddy Dearest Valentine. Clary then says she's gonna nullify the powers on the mortal mirror like she did with the soul sword, but when she draws the rune on it, the mirror disintegrates. Now the procedure has worked and Max is awake and alive, and now Izzy is blaming herself for letting Jonathan into the Institute in the first place. When it comes to the mortal mirror, Clary says what if she didn't destroy the actual mirror, because their runes couldn't be powerful enough to destroy a mortal instrument. She then realizes that the mirror wasn't the mirror at all, and while remembering the visions that she's had, she says the mirror is Lake Lynn. Okay, so finally everyone knows who Jonathan is. I can stop screaming at my TV. Luke seems to be back on track building his pack up. Simon and Maya are doing good, but Malec, not so much. Like I said, I'm guessing Jonathan is running off to Daddy Dearest Valentine to tell him about the lost mortal mirror, and I have a feeling Valentine's not going to be too happy about this. Also, it seems like war may be upon us, especially if Magnus does agree to go with the Seelie Queen's plan. Now let's roll the promo for next week.
You're not the only person afraid of losing someone.
I am tired of being afraid.
I need you to talk to the Seelie Queen.
Your queen stands before you.
You want war?
I want change.
The only thing that matters now is taking Jonathan and Valentine out.
I will kill them all.
We're going to make them pay for everything.
Okay everyone, so what did you think of this episode? Are you happy that the truth about Sebastian and Jonathan is finally out there? Like, I cannot wait to see a showdown between Jonathan and Clary, or Jonathan and Jace. I'm not sure which one I want to see more, and I don't know who is actually going to finally take him out if they do. But either way, I am very excited for it. Also, Ollie. Who the hell are you, Ollie? I need answers. Like I said before, I actually haven't read the books, so I don't even know if Ollie is a character in the books or just someone who's new for this TV show. Also, it seems like everything is setting up for season 3, which it was revealed at Comic-Con would take storylines from City of Fallen Angels. Now, leave me all your thoughts about this episode down in the comments below or on my socials. Then you can click right over here to see my recap of Teen Wolf, or check out my interview with Dub Cameron. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe, and if you don't, well, honestly, that's okay too. Thanks for stopping by anyway. As always, I'm Lisa, and I'll see you soon.